Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the statutory planning meeting of the 18th of February 2026. Welcome to those attending in person and online. Committee members may refer to technical devices throughout the meeting. This meeting is being broadcast via the Commission's website and YouTube. And I'd like to start by acknowledging that we're meeting on the lands of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation and pay our respects to elders past and present. We do have some apologies today. We have Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner Lakey and Member Knight as apologies. We welcome Commissioner Dare, who's joining us online, and in person today we have myself, Member Frankston, Commissioner Heron, Member Harmon and Member Moore. I'll now deal with disclosures of interest, and on item 3.1, the Part 11B development application for the concrete patching plant on Cone Street in Carlisle. Commissioner Heron has declared an actual impartiality interest, and that Commissioner Heron has advised that he was previously engaged while employed by Urbis to prepare the precinct structure plan for the Oak Street precinct, and this precinct adjoins the subject site. So whilst it doesn't include the subject land, Commissioner Heron has indicated that he is prepared to step out on this item. Thank you, Commissioner Heron. On the City of Vincent Draft Local Planning Strategy 2025, which is item 3.4, we have two declarations of interest, one from myself, being a perceived impartiality interest in that I am a resident of the City of Vincent and was the former mayor, but noting that I have not served on the council for over 2 years and was not involved in the development of the draft local planning strategy. And on that item, Member Harmon has also declared a perceived impartiality interest in that Member Harmon is also a resident of the City of Vincent. Are there any other declarations of interest? Franklin, thank you.
Yes, thank you, and apologies for the lateness of this disclosure. It's in regard to item 4.1, the MRS amendment, which City of Rock in Baldivis, wishing to bring to the panel's attention that I work as a subconsult to Hamish Charlie that are contracted to the City of Rockingham for the preparation of the local planning scheme review and preparation of strategy. Just in that amendment will be amending the local scheme and raising that as a potential issue.
Thank you very much. Look, I'm happy to accept that as a perceived impartiality interest if all members are.
Yep.
Yes. Thank you very much for that declaration. Members, are there any further? Thank you very much. And disclosures of representation, are there any today? No, thank you all. Declaration of due consideration, can members all indicate that they have received and considered the agenda? Thank you very much. And just noting that there has been additional information for members provided in response to questions. Thank you, Commissioner Adair. If there's anything further on that, we can come to it at the item. Thank you. So we'll now move to deputations and presentations, and Amy is here today to assist us with our verbal deputations. Thank you, Amy.
Welcome to those present to make a deputation today, either in person or online. You will be invited to join the table or be promoted to a panellist on Zoom to deliver your deputation. You've been advised of your allocated time, which will be managed on a timer which will appear on the screen. If you have a PowerPoint presentation, this will be displayed on the screen and you are asked to advise when you wish to advance the slides. So our first deputation this morning, we are doing on item 2.6, which is the development application for Women's and Babies Hospital Stage 2, Osborne Park. Item, 3.3. We invite Marcel Barakat and Raul Uchised to the table. Morning.
Morning. Thank you, Chair and members of the Commission. My name is Marcel Barakat, Design Engineering Director for the project. Like I was only here yesterday for the other development.
Thursday.
The Osborne Park Hospital expansion forms part of the $1.8 billion new Women's and Babies project. The expansion itself is two principal components: a 6-storey main clinical building and a 4-storey logistics hub connected via an elevated bridge link. Importantly, this is not a standalone building. It's a major redevelopment integrating directly into the existing live hospital services, infrastructure and campus circulation, and it expands maternity, neonatal, women's health services while also replacing a number of campus-wide services. Construction has already commenced under the approved Stage 1 early works, and the proposal before you today seeks approval of Stage 2 main works, enabling full delivery of the full expansion in line with the state's program and service commitments. With regards to the build form and planning in the build form, it's consistent with the City of Stirling activity centre structure plan and anticipates mid-rise development between 5 and 10 stories. The site is reserved for public purpose hospital under the Metropolitan Region scheme, and the expansion is wholly consistent with that reservation. The project's undergone 3 formal state design review panel processes and has received support from that panel. The process has been very meaningful for the project itself and has allowed refinements of that design ahead of this submission. So that included increased setbacks along Lamosa Close and Osborne Place, reconfigured vehicle access, careful balance of height and massing against the clinical requirements, to graduate transition to the surrounding residential context, and refined facade articulation bridge design to respond more sensitively to the streetscape. Any remaining architectural detail will be addressed through Condition 4, requiring final plans and materials prior to construction. With regards to traffic and parking perspective, development requires us to replace all parking bays on the site that we remove as part of the expansion. Parking demand has been assessed as a campus-wide assessment, and on completion, a minimum of 878 bays will be retained on site, consistent with the WA planning manual regarding hospital facilities. Importantly, there's no road upgrades required as part of this expansion. We recognise that OPH sits within an established residential setting, and we're very conscious of that fact. The project team has been mindful of this interface through design development and was supportive of the recommended conditions relating to landscaping and tree replacement, acoustic and environmental management, and construction management controls. These conditions should provide adequate safeguards to protect amenity while enabling essential health infrastructure to be delivered. In summary, we believe the Stage 2 main works application represents a logical and well-considered progression post early works and aligns with planning framework, response to design review feedback, maintains parking supply, and addresses amenity through enforceable conditions. So we respectfully request the Commission support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Raoul, and thank you, Marcel. Raoul and Marcel, just checking that you're satisfied with the conditions of approval.
Yeah, there's been good work and interface with DPLH on design.
And including the tree ratio replacement.
Correct. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Members, over to you for any questions. No questions on the item. Thank you very much for your deputation today.
Thank you.
Our next deputation is on item 3.1, which is a Part 11B development application for concrete batching plant at 12 Cones Street in Carlisle for determination. And we're inviting Stacey Westling via Zoom.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Stacey, and my family and I live on Collins Street, directly across the road from Wholesome's concrete batching plant. We strongly oppose Wholesome's development application. The proposal for 12 Collins Street is not appropriate for a facility of the scale within the light industrial zone, particularly given its proximity to established residential properties. WA's EPA separation distances guidance statement number 3 advises a buffer distance of 300 to 500 metres between concrete plants and homes. In our case, there is a single street and a footpath separating us, far below any safe buffer. Our homes are constantly covered with concrete dust, and we know that concrete dust can cause serious health problems such as silicosis. Our street is not a heavy industrial area supporting large 24/7 operations. Neighbouring businesses to 12 Collins Street consist of workshops, service centres, a laundromat and a gymnastics studio. Our concerns remain that the impacts this development application would have on the community with regard to air quality, noise and vibration, and the increased traffic movements with stark planning inconsistencies. The Town of Victoria Parks planning scheme makes clear that the purpose of light industrial zoning is to ensure that developments adjoining residential areas are set back, screened, or otherwise designed so not to detract from residential amenity. The installation of 6 31-metre silos towering far above the 5-metre perimeter wall would be completely at odds with this objective. In addition, the proposal for 24/7 operations with approximately 110 vehicle movements during the night would be hugely disruptive, destroying the quiet evenings currently enjoyed by our community. The Town of Victoria Park was clear in their submission to the WAPC that they do not support this development application. Through the public consultation, we also know that 96% of the survey respondents do not support this development application. Carlisle is a neighbourhood with schools, seniors' homes, parks and playgrounds. Protecting the livelihood and well-being of the community surrounding 12 Collins Street should remain the priority of government, and as such, we ask that you refuse the proposed development application. Thank you.
Hello, Stacey. You're now talking to Emma Cole, the Chair. Thank you very much for your very well considered deputation today. Appreciate that you have taken the time to present as a immediate resident. I will now see whether the members have any questions of you. Members, any questions of Stacey? Thank you, Stacey. The matters that you have raised, we will discuss today. So thank you very much for attending.
Thank you.
Our next deputation is for the same item 3.1, and we have Ryan Carstairs joining us via Zoom. Ryan, we just need you to turn your webcam and audio on.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, thank you. Please begin when
Sorry,
you're
I
ready.
thought I was all prepared and then it threw up a nothing is allowed on this laptop. So good to be here. Hey, my name's Ryan. I'm here today to ask the West Australian Planning Commission to refuse the expansion of the Holcim concrete batching plant. I've been a resident in the town of Vic Park for 8 years. I've been a resident in the suburb of Carlisle for 5 years and a new homeowner in Carlisle for 6 months. Carlisle as a suburb, certainly since I've been here, has been on a clear path of renewal, improvement and placemaking. I've seen more homes, more community use, improved amenities and attractions as well since I've been here. There's been significant public investment in raising the railway, for example, beautiful green spaces such as Long Park and streetscape improvements in the Archer Street precinct, hospitality precinct. Expanding heavy industrial use in the middle of this trajectory works against our suburb's future. It undermines amenity for current residents, it discourages new residents and local visitation, and it sends the message that Carlisle is heavy industry first and its residents that make up the heart of the suburb last. The expansion of this heavy industrial plant is not appropriate for the light industrial zone of Carlisle, let alone the established homes and nearby residents. Appropriate heavy industrial areas are located nearby, for example, in Welshpool, which is less than 2 kilometres away, that are better suited and would not impact the quality or logistics of Holcim concrete, given its close proximity to the current plant, but in a more appropriate area. On a lighter note, I might add that I also see Holcim refers to their plant as Welshpool concrete, and I would say if it's Welshpool by branding, it should be Welshpool by location. From a residential impact point of view, this expansion will have material impacts on noise, concrete dust, and airborne particles, and heavy traffic movements, and therefore the safety of residents that live nearby. I have 2 friends with families living very close by, both with babies less than 12 months old. They and the surrounding Carlisle residents should not have to carry the downside of this expansion and their right to quiet enjoyment of their home and the surrounding area, while Holcim receives the commercial benefits. This, to me, is exactly why planning exists, to prevent incompatible uses intensifying near homes and reducing the livability and vibrancy of the suburb. I see a cumulative and material impact by expanding this plant, and I would ask that you refuse this expansion. Thank you.
Ryan, thank you very much for your deputation today. It's Emma Cole, Chair, speaking to you. We do appreciate the time that you've taken and we note the points made. I will now see if there are any questions of you from members. No, there are no questions, but the matters that you've raised today will be discussed during the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next deputation is for the same item 3.1, and we have Kenrick Armitage joining us on Zoom. Rick, we just need you to join your webcam and audio. Still can't hear you there, Kenrick.
Sorry, do you have me now?
Yes, thank you. Please start when you're ready.
Awesome, thank you. My wife and I have been long-term residents of Con Street, and we value the continued progression of this area towards a more livable, well-planned urban environment. The Town of Victoria Park's proposed rezoning of Oak Street Precinct for high-density residential development, along with the development of the new Long Park 300 metres from the plant, reflects a clear strategic direction towards increased housing supply and improved amenities. This direction aligns directly with the WAPC strategic pillars of increasing residential and land housing supply and planning and designing for livability, equity and well-being. For that reason, the proposed expansion of the Wholesome concrete batching plant is fundamentally at odds with these objectives. Introducing a significantly intensified 24-hour heavy industrial operation immediately adjacent to established residential neighbourhood represents a step backwards in orderly and proper planning. The site is zoned light industrial, which is intended to accommodate low-impact industry uses, while the existing plant operates under an historic discretionary approval. This proposal represents a substantial intensification well beyond what would typically be contemplated within a light industrial zone. The introduction of 24/7 operations, silos of up to 31 metres in height and a tripling of production is incompatible with the surrounding residential context. We are not opposed to industry, nor do we underestimate the importance of reliable concrete supply. However, a facility of this magnitude is more appropriately located within the nearby heavy industrial precincts such as Welshpool, Kenrick or Kewdale, where impacts can be properly managed and long-term expansions can occur without direct conflict with residential communities. The WAPC strategic plan also emphasises coordinated and inclusive stakeholder engagement. Community feedback has been overwhelmingly opposed to this proposal, with only 2 submissions in support through the Have Your Say consultation process and 133 in opposition. In addition to a substantial petition submitted to the Town of Victoria Park of over 170 responses against. This level of concern reflects genuine and widespread stakeholder engagement, plus forms the Town of Victoria Park's position against. For these reasons, I respectfully urge the Commission to oppose the proposal in support of residents, in line with the Town of Victoria Park position against, and fulfilling the WAPC strategic plan directions. Thank you.
Kenrick, thank you very much for your deputation. It's Emma Cole, Chair, speaking to you now. And we do appreciate you taking your time to put your thoughts forward as a Con Street resident. Members, do you have any questions of Kenrick? Thank you, Kenrick. These items will be discussed and you're very welcome to continue to watch the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next deputation is on the same item 3.1 and we have Sam Russell and Jenny Morrow joining us in person today. You to the table.
I'll just state that we do.
Oh, and sorry, Stephen as well.
Thank you. Yes. Good morning, everyone. If it's all right with the chair, the intention was for me to speak first and then to hand over to Sam Russell. I know the time is limited, so we'll go straight to it. Thank you. First, we wish to express our support for the officer's report and recommendation for approval. We also confirm that Wholesome gets all the recommended. I'd also like to acknowledge the residents who presented this morning, and I'm happy to, if there's time, to make some commentary about the concerns that have been raised. As the Commission would know, this proposal is not simply a standalone development application. It aligns with the strategic transition with the planned closure of Wholesome's East Perth concrete batching plant. The Carlisle site has been formally endorsed by the Minister for Planning and the Premier as being of state and regional importance, and approval is essential to ensure the continuity in the supply of high specification concrete to the CBD and government infrastructure projects without disruption. It's important that we have a long-term replacement facility. Otherwise, we risk that disruption to the metropolitan supply chain. Proposal also aligns strongly with the state planning framework, the Welshpool Kewdale industrial area, in which the plant is located, and batching facilities are consistently referenced across multiple strategic planning instruments, including the Economic and Employment Land Strategy, Central Sub-Regional Planning Framework, and the State Infrastructure Strategy. The first two of those documents identify Welshpool Kewdale as a strategic metropolitan industrial precinct critical to freight logistics and construction supply chain servicing inner metropolitan Perth. EELS and the State Infrastructure Strategy explicitly emphasises the protection of strategically located industrial infrastructure, including concrete batching facilities. More broadly, the Commission would be aware that the state planning policies establishes a very clear presumption in favour of protecting established industrial areas from encroachment by activities that could undermine their term function. The land itself is owned industry under the MRS, and it's supported concrete batching operations for 6 decades. So accordingly, along with the identification by the Premier for its state and regional importance, approval today is entirely consistent with the strategic framework. I also just want to acknowledge the concerns raised by the nearby residents today, and I can say that Wholesome, from my experience, take a very proactive approach in engagement with the local residents. I want to assure them and the SPC that the replacement plan incorporates significant improvements that are designed to enhance compatibility with surrounding uses, all of which are detailed in the officer's report. We can refer to those in need. But to support that, a comprehensive suite of technical reports has been prepared and rigorously assessed by relevant agencies. And out of that exercise, there is a clear technical consensus. The proposal is acceptable subject to conditions which Wholesome have accepted. It's also important to state that Wholesome has also voluntarily commissioned additional health risk modelling to respond to the community concerns that were raised, to demonstrate that the plant operates safely and at low risk to the community. This work has been assessed by the Department of Health, and the proposal will also be subject to detailed regulatory oversight through the works approval process through DWER. So we consider the officer's report and recommendation to be robust, appropriate, and strongly supported by the strategic framework. And we would just ask the Commission to support this recommendation. I'll hand over to Sam then to say.
Yeah, the clock's ticking. If you want to go on to the next slide, I know some of you have heard a bit before about us. So, and what we're proposing. So the redevelopment of the batch plant. We did have a previous approval in 21 for basically replacement of the plant. It's quite old, but this new development application is in relation to consideration of East Perth and work moving out from East Perth, batch plants closing. So if you just go to the next slide. Who we are, we're one of the major ready-mix concrete and aggregate suppliers in the country, for over 100 years old. We have hundreds of batch plants, trucks and quarries across the country, and we have about 37 operations in Western Australia across the place. We are involved, I guess, across all different segments, but we principally do very large projects, such as some of the ones you can see on there, like Elizabeth Quay and Yagan Square and Melconnects and Tonkin Extension projects such as that. Next slide. So the need for the project, and there's a few slides a bit later on, but essentially the 2 batch plants in East Perth do supply a considerable amount of concrete into that local market. Generally, agitated trucks, concrete trucks don't travel that far. And so this proposal is about both replacing the batch plant as it is, but also allowing for some of the workload to come from East Perth into the Welshpool plant. It's very important for the uninterrupted supply. And you can see a bit later on, there's a map which talks about the proximity of the batch plant into the CBD area. Just go to the next slide. I think Steve probably covered off on what is proposed, so I might just go to the next slide there. There's all the modelling and surveys we did. That's what it looks like now. You skip to the next one. This is what it's supposed to look like. So you can see in there that there is very much a change across the whole entire site. Go to the next slide. We did a whole range of consultation with everyone, and in my 10 seconds left, if you just skip to the benefits slide, which maybe the next one. I think probably an important point is our modelling indicates that we are unable to meet the needs of that CBD area, if you go to a map later on, without something that's in close proximity to be able to supply to that area in either an efficient, as in logistics manner, or a cost-effective manner. Not sustainably anyway. And probably the last slide, go into it. That probably just gives you an indication. It's a bit hard to see zoomed out, but you can see there our site, how I guess a standalone is compared to all the other batch plants. That's it from me. Thanks. Sorry, I went over.
Thank you very much for the deputation today. Members will have questions. Are there questions for the applicant team? Look, I'll go to Commissioner Dare first, and then I think, Steve, it would be useful to flesh out some of the matters that the residents have raised in a bit more detail around things like dust and traffic, and the impacts that are dealt with in the report. But I think that we are likely to have those residents joining us online today, so it would be useful to address some of those points. But I will first go to Commissioner Adair.
Yeah, you just took the words right out of my mouth.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, so I think from my perspective, the continuity of supply, even the zoning of the land, is not in question. This is really about how the redevelopment of the site, what is it how's it improving the outcome for the residents? What the impacts, like the dust and things, are a real concern for people. So how are you addressing that? So as the chairperson just said, it would be very helpful to hear you address some of the issues that were raised by those other submitters. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Happy to do that. There was a lot of detail in our report providing a comparison between what's there today and what's being proposed. And at the moment, the plant is what's called a dry plant. So one of the key noise impacts that arise from concrete batching is from what they call the slumping stand. And so that's when, after the concrete is loaded into the back of an agitator, it then goes and parks in what's called a slumping stand, and there's a manual filling of the water by the drivers. And in that process, the engines are rotating and revved at level, which is one of the, I guess, the noisier characteristics of a batching plant. In this particular facility, one of the key changes that we've done for night operations is to introduce wet batching, which is not necessarily ideal to do it all the time. It's there for nighttime operations, but what it does do is it takes away all of the slumping requirement for nighttime operations. So the slumping, if you like, where the water is added into the batching process, occurs within the plant itself and then gets deposited into the agitator. So a lot of that noise is taken away from that process that would be experienced today. And slumping stands at present are located closer to Cohen Street than what they are proposed to do. So there still will be slumping for daytime operations, but the slumping facilities and anything that's noisy has basically been pushed up towards the industrial at the Briggs Street end of the facility, so including the slumping stands. And on top of that, there's been an introduction of a number of noise walls interleaved throughout the site to also mitigate noise from what would currently be potentially experienced today by residents. So we've tried to push most of the, I guess, the active components of the facility towards the Briggs Street end, so that at the Cohen Street end, we've kept predominantly the parking for light vehicles and for the employees of the facility, and activities that are really quite benign, to try and make sure that we're going to create those improvements. The other thing that's happened is that all heavy traffic is entirely removed from Cohen Street. So at present, there is an access which goes onto Cohen Street, which heavy vehicles can use, and all heavy traffic that was part of this proposal will be relocated to Briggs Street. So there'll be no interface with the traffic. So one of the concerns I think that was expressed was about the impact of increased traffic and the like. But if there are increases in traffic, they're all positioned on Briggs Street, and the route maps which are included in the transport impact statement show that they use regional roads to basically get to their destination, unless it's a local delivery, of course, they would have to use local roads in that instance. So for us, that was a very significant improvement. So the only traffic that's on Cowan Street now is employee parking and light vehicles. So there's no more heavy vehicle traffic that's involved on there as well. One of the other things that's been done is that a lot of the facilities which may be open at present are being enclosed. So everything from the delivery of raw materials to the site, the storage of those raw materials, and the transfer of those materials to the batching facilities is now fully enclosed. So that is a significant capacity to contain dust and noise, and the depositing of the batched materials into the agitator is also in an enclosed space, as is the delivery of cement tanker materials as well. So there has been, if you like, a contemporisation of all of the facilities to bring in the current day practices, best practices, if you like, to make sure that the facility is operating so that the impacts such as dust and noise and the like are fully self-contained, pushed further away from the residents. So there are other things I could continue to go through, and I appreciate the time of the committee. We talked about the noise walls. There's additional landscaping that's been presented. If any of the members have been to Cowan Street, it's probably actually the nicest interface you'll get along that whole street already. But that will be further enhanced, improved through some of the landscaping opportunities. Lighting is being fully revamped to make sure that there is no overspill and that it meets the appropriate standards. So everything's been designed not only to meet technical standards, but also to try and, as best as possible, improve the amenity experience for residents by pushing a lot of those activities further away from Cowan Street and really focusing activities on the Brigg Street end of the facility. I think that's probably covered the key ones, unless there's anything specific.
Commissioner Adair, did you have any follow-up on that?
That pretty much covers it. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. So just in terms of the location of the plant, Steve, if you could sort of outline for the residents' benefit the separation in terms of where you've set that in the site. And I'm just interested in the washdown area, whether you think that would cause any impact to the adjoining residents, noting that you do have a noise wall there.
So
I have the plans.
the washdown area presently is located towards the Cowan end of the street end of the plant. However, as part of this application, I'm just going to get my plan out because I'm realising I might be talking about slump stands. Sorry, bear with me. Sorry, it's referring to the slump stands. So that washdown area is located down the Cowan Street end of the site. However, there is also the noise walls that are proposed along the Cowan Street end of the site, as well as those side noise walls on the side boundaries as well, and the noise walls located adjacent to the car park for the passenger vehicles. So those activities, the washdown element of the proposal, the noise associated with that will be contained within that area. Did you also want a discussion on the slump stands as well?
So, I mean, I think that one of the that Stacey Westling raised the buffer distance of, she talked about buffer distance, and I think that the way in which the plant has been designed to have the plant located towards the centre and Brack Street side. I just wanted to see if you wanted to comment on the sort of distance between that and Cowan Street.
Yeah, look, with the washout area, it is roofed as well. So that's for noise. And we have allowance for an electric front end loader. So I think Steve's talked about our aggregates delivery, which is all, the truck drives in, it releases it underground. It's all enclosed in the aggregate storage tower. That is different when we have a lot of front end loaders on site. The other source of noise with a compact batching plant is a front end loader. So the only one we do have left is for our washout bays, because we need the front end loader to come in and dig the waste out of the pits occasionally. So we have made an allowance for an electric front end loader, which is much quieter as well. In terms of the question about the buffer distance, so the EPA's sensitive land use policy is 300 to 500 metres unless you can prove or demonstrate through noise modelling that the development will be compliant. So, you know, with all the work that we have done, with all the measures around the aggregates delivery, the enclosing of the washout area, the slump stands, the electric front end loader, and all the noise walls that we have around the site and the wet mix at night, we are compliant with the noise regulations. Following, there is an allowance for as well. So, you know, we are a good corporate citizen in that we always do commissioning noise monitoring to ensure that our development is compliant with what's modelled. And we have detailed that in our noise management plan with the contingency measures. So say, for example, we do our noise monitoring at commissioning. There's, you know, for whatever reason, it may not be compliant. There are certain things in that plan that cover those scenarios. So I think that's very important to get across it as well. You know, we have gone in with engineering, with plant design to really minimise noise. We've done the noise modelling, we're putting all the noise walls in place, and we've got the noise management plan with contingency measures as well.
Thank you very much. Look, I note that these issues are covered in the report, but I think that it's really good just to have this discussion today, particularly with the residents having raised these issues and the number of submissions that we've received on this application. So thank you very much for taking us through that. Member Franklin?
Through the chair, the other element was the height element for the new infrastructure. Just really wanted to touch upon that and how the development is addressing that height component and where it's located on some kind of.
Well, one of the key things we were asked to do is to model it.
Mm-hmm.
So at the moment, the tower is actually quite close to Collins Street. So the new tower, which is larger because it needs to accommodate additional infrastructure to mitigate some of these other impacts, such as the wet slumping, etc., is taller, but it's pushed further towards the Brigg Street end. So to look at the impact of that, we provided some modelling. It's still quite a narrow interface. If height is height, I mean, we're not talking about, you know, we've got
25 metres.
Approximately, I think it's up 29 metres, I think. So I think if we're comparing height for height's sake, I mean, we're in a location close to the station. I think that's going to have significantly taller buildings as height goes, but we were asked nevertheless to model what the impact of that would be like. So one of the things that Sam put up on the screen was one of the perspectives. There was a number of perspectives that were presented to show what that height would be like. Our view is because it's pushed back such a distance, the fact that height is not going to be incongruent in that area because there are approvals already in place for very significant developments in the area. And given this is an isolated singular structure, we didn't feel that it was undue and adverse from a visible impact. And because it's pushed further back and it's necessary in order to accommodate the other infrastructure to control the externalities that the residents are also concerned about, we felt that was an appropriate response by trying to minimise the impact by pushing it further away, but keeping it as low as possible, but sufficient to ensure that we had all the right infrastructure put into place. Otherwise, we wouldn't normally want to build it to that height, but it's been necessary to accommodate addressing those other externality issues.
Thank you very much.
Members, are there any further questions? Thank you very much. We appreciate your deputation today.
Thank you very much.
Our next question is on item 2, section 31, reconsideration for Park Ridge Structure Plan Amendment number 1, as we have Brendan Foley joining us on Zoom. Commissioner Heron will be rejoining the table. Morning, Brendan.
Good morning.
Please start when you're ready.
Thank you. Thank you to the officers at the DPLH for the latest report. This matter has been going on for a number of years now. I do request that instead of item number 2 in the officer's recommendation to require modification and then resubmission to the WAPC, which will take another, I don't know how many months, to instead amend that to the new decision to approve, subject to the modifications set out in attached schedule A6, and delegate final approval of those modifications to the Director of Planning Appeals. The reason for this is that if we need to go and we've already made those changes, we have it ready to go. But if we need to book into the SPC process again, it's going to be another 2, 3, 4 months. Builders are literally screaming out for lots in this area. There is not a single piece of land for sale in the northeastern corridor of Bunbury. We have 55 lots with a subdivision in the system consistent with this plan at the moment, and those modifications that are required in A6 are very, very minor. They're effectively typographical updates. Also to the east of us, Millbridge Estate has an approved subdivision for a couple of hundred lots, or just over 100 lots, and they can't develop without our subdivision going ahead because they need us for their secondary fire access and vice versa. So the unlocking of this approval will literally deliver 100 lots to this area in a very short time frame. We have addressed every single one of the previous reasons for refusal, and all of those outstanding matters in A6, as correctly identified by the officer's report, are minor and can be addressed through minor updates. Thank you.
Brendan, thank you very much for your deputation today. Look, usually where it requires modifications and resubmission to the WA Planning Commission, that would normally be done under delegation in any case. I'm just asking the appeals team to confirm that, and when we come to the item, I will ask that question just to be clear, but that would be my understanding. So I don't expect that it would necessarily come back to the
If there's already delegation, that's fine. It's just if there wasn't, I wanted to make sure because this is in a reconsideration space.
Yeah.
So as I understood it, yeah.
I would. Yep. So I've already asked the question on the side here, and the team will confirm that when we come to this item.
Thank you.
Members, are there any other questions of Brendan? No, thank you, and we appreciate that you've worked through these issues, Brendan, and look forward to dealing with the item today.
Thank you.
Our next deputation is on item 3.4, City of Vincent Draft Local Planning Strategy for 2025, certification to advertise, and we have Byron Mickey, Timothy Elliott and Mitchell Hode joining us online from the City of Vincent. We've just got Mitchell online, so we'll just see if they are together.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you, Chair and Committee, for the opportunity to speak to this item today. My name is Byron Mickey. I'm a Senior Strategic Planner with the City of Vincent, and joining me is Tim Elliott, the Coordinator of Strategic Planning, and Mitchell Hode, the Manager of Strategic Planning at the City. We'd like to start by thanking the officers at the Department for their positive recommendation to certify the draft local planning strategy for advertising, and note that we support the recommendation. The City's worked collaboratively with officers at the Department to get the draft strategy and the schedule of modifications to the stage where it's ready for advertising, and I'd like to reflect the positive experience that we've had working with Department officers in that process. We believe the strategy now represents a strong strategic planning direction for the City, which includes actions to plan for housing growth and consolidated mixed-use development in the city's town centres and within close proximity to train stations, as well as along transit corridors and high-frequency bus routes. This approach ensures that new housing is well located near public transport, jobs and services, and maintains vibrant town centres which attract investment, while at the same time protecting the character of the established low-density residential neighbourhoods in the city. This growth model is supported by planning directions and actions which seek to improve active and public transport infrastructure to support mode shift and make it easier for people to move throughout the city. The strategy also recognises the significant heritage value within the City of Vincent and will ensure the city continues to plan for well-designed neighbourhoods which preserve existing character and heritage. Key actions included in the strategy also seek to embed climate responsive design into the city's planning framework to protect and enhance the city's tree canopy and create a climate resilient and energy efficient community for future generations. And finally, the strategy seeks to integrate public health principles into the planning framework to ensure that developments actively contribute to healthier, safer, and more connected communities. In setting out these key strategic objectives, we believe the strategy responds to the requirements of the state planning framework and aligns with the breadth of planning work the city has been progressing to facilitate these key objectives. We're looking forward to taking the draft strategy to the City of Vincent community during the advertising period, and we're grateful for the recommendation for that period to be extended to 42 days to allow us to meaningfully engage with our community. We look forward to progressing the draft strategy through the advertising and final approval. Thank you for your time and consideration, and we're happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Byron, Tim and Mitch. Emma Cole here. We appreciate your deputation today. I will now see if members have any questions of you on the draft strategy. Let's go ahead, Commissioner Heron.
Yeah, thank you very much for the deputation, and the draft strategy definitely has a lot of very good content. I was just wondering if you could provide any insight in relation to the East Perth Power Station precinct, given obviously that is a fairly significant site. It's obviously been identified that there will be redevelopment there. Has there been any feedback received in your preliminary conversations around the form or timing of that?
To this date, no, we haven't, I suppose, been able to get any sort of indication. It does form a pretty important piece for us, but I think it also sort of relates to the station precincts announced towards the end of last year, which captures around the Claysbrook station. So I think it would be, it probably forms into that piece of work as well as our strategies. So yeah, nothing definitive yet, but we certainly recognise its importance.
Thank you very much.
Members, any other questions? Also, just from me, I understand you're supportive of the rationalisation of the planning investigation areas in the strategy. Just wanted to confirm that with you, see if you had any comment.
Yeah, that's supported. We have sort of worked quite closely with the officers at the department on that recommendation, and we sort of discussed which ones could be rationalised, and the ones that are recommended can easily be sort of subsumed into either a corridor planning piece of work or something similar. So we're supportive of that.
Okay, thank you. And also just wanted to note your ambition on dwelling targets. So that's really good to see.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions? Thank you very much for your deputation today.
Thanks.
The next deputation is on item 4.2, City of Nedlands Local Planning Scheme number 3, amendment number 16, recommendation to Minister. And we have Luke Smith, Sergio Famiano and Casey Hill joining from the City of Nedlands online. Good morning, Luke. Can we just get you to turn on your webcam and audio?
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Luke. Please start when you're ready.
No worries. So thank you very much, commissioners and committee members, for the opportunity to speak. This presentation is on Scheme Amendment number 16, fast food outlets, to the City of Nedlands Local Planning Scheme number 3. Next slide, please. So this scheme amendment was originally proposed in 2021 and sought to prohibit fast food outlets along Stirling Highway and make them an ex-use within our scheme. The reasoning behind the initial preparation of the amendment was to improve the health and well-being of the city's residents by limiting access to businesses selling and promoting unhealthy products. Next slide. Administration had initial concerns about the planning merits of the amendment, but progressed with the amendment at the request of council in February 2021 against the officer's original recommendation. As a complex amendment, it was advertised for 60 days from April to June 2021. Following advertising, an extension to the determination timeframe was sought by the city to assess impacts on what at the time was a fairly new local planning scheme, before the amendment was ultimately deferred by council in November 2021 to further review planning outcomes, community health considerations, and potential design controls that could be implemented for future fast food outlets. During the deferral period, the city had received consistent advice that banning fast food outlets through the planning system does not represent orderly or proper planning, as it segregates land uses based on product offerings. The item was presented to council again and was formally discontinued in August 2025 by the commissioners at the City of Nedlands. Next slide. So in total, 22 submissions were received during consultation, with 19 in support of the amendment. However, most of the submissions supported the amendment for the perceived public health benefits, which in our opinion is kind of sits outside the controls of the planning system. So as only 7 of the submissions noted planning merits as a reason to support the amendment, this undercut the overall degree of community support in the city's opinion. Next slide. The amendment being discontinued reaffirms that land uses should not be segregated based on product offerings, and that a blanket ban could also unintentionally restrict small local operators offering healthier alternatives that may fall under the fast food land use. The approval of Scheme Amendment number 13 as well, relating to the Nedlands Stirling Highway Activity Centre, reduces lot availability for traditional fast food outlets by rezoning portions of Stirling Highway for residential purposes. This enables more targeted centre development and ensures that future fast food outlets are appropriately located. In our opinion, investigating further control should take place at a higher level, with design managed through relevant policies and strategies rather than implementing a scheme amendment beyond the general scope of the planning system. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Luke. That was perfect 3 minutes almost. Thanks for your deputation today. Members, are there any questions of Luke? Thank you. I think the position is clear. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much.
So that concludes our verbal deputations today. Thank you, Amy. I'm just noting that we have also received written deputations today. One on the concrete batching plant item 3.1, one on the sections. Oh, my apologies. I'm going off course here, and Amy has actually pointed to me to the fact that there are nil. I'm reading something else. My apologies. I'll just confirm that there are nil written deputations. Thank you very much, Amy. So at this point, I'm just going to check in with members. Are members happy to continue? Do you need a break? No? Okay, thank you very much. Right. And we'll then move on to the items for us today that we are dealing with. And the first item is in relation to item 3.1. The Part 11B development application for the concrete batching plant at 12 Cone Street in Carlisle. We are joined by Paula DePerna and Reese Wu, officers who have assessed the item. Thank you very much. Paula and Reese, we have had a number of deputations. First, some key issues today. Would you like to make any comments before we go to questions?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a couple of components. I know the response to buffers and updated plant layout has been explained by the applicant, I'd also just want to touch on the fact that there's been considerable engagement with the Department of Health, both through the State Referral Coordination Unit and Wholesome team directly meeting with health. That's resulted in additional information which forms the basis of the assessment and presented to the committee. And that information has been further reviewed by health referral and are satisfied with the outcomes of the information and the recommendations, the conditions that are to you today. Relative to noise and operational, including truck movements, DWER has reviewed the acoustic assessment and is agreeable to the findings in terms of the scope of the works. I do note that an earlier DAP approval for the operations of the site does permit 24-hour operations, albeit that approval hasn't been enacted. It is something that has previously been considered appropriate for the site itself. We note that there will be an increase in vehicle movements at night, but as highlighted earlier, it will be confined to the roads within the industrial area, and therefore it's not expected to have any impact on the amenity of the adjacent residential area. The renewal of the broader locality has been considered in the assessment to the extent that the status of the documents enable us to. The site is located within a broader area, sort of recently announced as part of the state government's Oak Street Station precinct, which in future will consider an improvement plan to consolidate both the MRS and the local planning scheme provisions. That's in its infancy, however, will be informed and guided by the draft precinct planning that the town of Victoria Park has undertaken. That draft PSP isn't a seriously entertained document, but does set out the intent for the broader locality. It's intended that this site, the subject of the development, is not contemplated to change through that precinct planning exercise. And I do highlight that the existing zoning is part of a recently adopted scheme. Other than that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Paola and Race. Members, any questions? No questions. Okay, thank you very much. And we'll move to consider the item. So we're now dealing with item 3.1, and I would ask for a mover and seconder for the officer recommendation. Moved by Member Harmon, seconded by Commissioner Adair. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, look, I'll make some broad comments. I mean, obviously, this is a strategically important facility in the context of the CBD and surrounds. I'm certainly sympathetic to the adjoining residents, and it's a concrete batching plant. It's unlikely to win any architecture awards, but the applicant has made some substantial operational improvements to minimise the impact on the adjoining area, which I'm certainly comfortable with. The current planning framework allows for it, as has been touched on, and as is evidenced by the town's officers recommending support for the proposal. And I guess the other point that sort of leads to my support is the notion of alternative locations in areas like Welshpool, virtually non-existent. I mean, the industrial market the industrial land market is so tight that I think that's not a possible alternative. So for those reasons, I'm happy to support the proposal.
Thank you, Member Harmon. Commissioner Adair, do you wish to make any comment?
Briefly to support Member Harmon, thank you, Chair. These proposals are never without any impact. However, I'm quite satisfied with the answers that we've received, that what is being proposed is actually improvement on what is currently there at the moment. And obviously our role is not to determine whether the industrial use is desirable in the area, it's whether it's acceptable within the statutory framework. And given the information that's been provided and the conditions that are being proposed for this, I'm happy to support the proposal with those conditions.
Thank you. Is there any further comments? Just to comment briefly, I do appreciate the extent of deputations that we've had today, and I do want to acknowledge that this has had a relatively strong response through consultation, sitting at, I think, 134 submissions, and concern from local residents. I think the residents today spoke very well about their concerns about the amenity impacts, but it is really, I think this has been dealt with extremely comprehensively. It's been pointed out the very important consideration that we need to give to the fact that this is industrially zoned land in the MRS, that it is zoned, whilst it's zoned industrial light under the scheme, there is a discretionary use for industrial there, and that is an important consideration for the Commission. I think the treatment of the plant in locating it to the industrial end to the west of the site is a very important consideration. The way in which the batching is incorporating wet mix at night time, all of the noise management plans, the traffic management plans all point to the fact that this can be managed without those amenity impacts to the residents. I think clever use of the heavy vehicles going out into the way from Cohen Street, the noise walls within the way in which that's been managed. So I can see that the applicant has worked really closely with the SDAU to achieve these outcomes and have set themselves a pretty high bar in terms of the management plans that they will have to meet in the continued operation of this plant. And I do think it is good to see this plant go towards best practice, because it is a currently operating concrete batching plant. And whilst it is an expanded use, it's happening in a way that really ameliorates the impacts that would be felt in the broader area. So I just want to say thank you to the SDAU for a very comprehensive and considered report. I know that you've turned your mind to many aspects, including things like time limited approval, and I agree that that would not be appropriate given that this can meet environmental noise conditions, and that the way the plant's been treated is demonstrated to be able to be compatible, consistent with the land use that's operating on. Members, anything further? And is there any dissent to the recommendation? Thank you, that is carried. Item 3.2, the Section 31 reconsideration for structure plan amendment number 1, and Ryan Shaw and Matthew Talon are joining us today. Ryan and Matthew, we have had a deputation from the applicant representative on this who was concerned about modifications having to come back to committee. Are you able to respond to that matter and then raise any other matters that you wish to?
Certainly, and through the chair, and as you've captured, Mr. Foley did raise point regarding the officer's resolution. As an initial point, the resolution is consistent with the decision-making powers conferred to the Commission by Part 4 of Schedule 2 of the Local Planning Scheme regulations. This adopts a two-step process, 1 requiring modifications and 2 resubmission for approval. Noting this wording coupled by the administrative nature of the proposed modifications, which Mr. Foley did recognise largely administrative, we see the future act of approval of this final plan being implied. However, if this does cause trouble, the Commission's delegations also provides delegated authority to senior staff, both in the general structure plan sense relating to modifications approved by a committee, as well as it specifically relates to SAP reviews. So unless directed otherwise by the SPC, we see this matter would be dealt with in a timely manner at an officer level without having gone back to the SPC.
Thank you, that's appreciated. Is there anything else that you wanted to raise in relation to the report provided, which is report?
No, not necessarily. We're comfortable with the recommendation, and I guess appreciate the applicant's efforts through the SAP process.
Members, any questions? Okay, we'll move to consider the item. If I could have a mover and seconder for the officer recommendation. Moved by Member Franklin, seconded by Member Moore. Is there any discussion?
I just acknowledge the process that has gone taken, that environment, a successful resolution. Best contribution.
And I would say that it's a significantly improved outcome. So I think well done by everybody.
Yeah. I concur with that. There's been a lot of effort has gone into this, and I think to see this iteration is really done. Any further comments? Any dissent? Thank you. That is carried. Thank you all. We're out now at item 3.3, the development application for the Women and Babies Hospital Stage 2 Osborne for termination. And we're joined by Dale Sanderson, Ben Hesketh, and Reese Wu again. Ben not joining us today.
Ben's online. He's unwell, but joining us online.
Thanks, Ben. Should have not feeling well. All right. Dale, we've had a deputation from the applicant team. Is there anything that you wish to add, or are you happy to go to questions?
Not too much without being repetitive. DA is consistent with the purpose of the reservation. Building height is to the scale that we see that is common for apartments in the Perth. It's consistent for what's envisaged for the area. There's a low number of submissions. The city haven't raised objection, and conditions have been resolved with the applicant. Okay, thank you.
Very much. Members, any questions? Yes, Heron?
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm, because the residential areas to the north are in fact zoned for redevelopment. So although obviously it's predominantly single residential at this point in time, that is envisaged that will adjust over time.
Correct. It's planned for around 5-storey, scale of 5-storey.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, if we could move to consideration of the officer recommendation. There are mover and seconder, please. Moved by Commissioner Heron, seconded by Commissioner Adair. Any discussion?
Thank you. Through the chair, only to say that again, this it's a well reconciled design, and obviously an important piece of infrastructure with entire consistency with the zoning and the vision plan for the Stirling City Centre.
Thank you. Any further comments?
Just to reiterate that it's a well-resolved major public infrastructure proposal. I think, it's got a lot of design review support, technical assessment support. So, I think it's well and truly worth supporting.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Adair. Any further comments? Look, I also just wanted to note the responsiveness to feedback through the process, particularly to the SDAU. I was really welcome changes that were made for the increased setbacks to Limosa and Osborne Place, and the smaller link bridge. I think these have made quite an impactful change and will allow that tree replacement to be accommodated. So I think this has been a similarly good process to that which we saw with Women and Babies. Wanted to say thank you to both applicant and DPLH officers on ensuring a smooth process as we've sort of embarked on dealing with the Women and Babies Hospital at both locations. So is there any dissent to the recommendation? Thank you. That is carried. We're now at the City of Vincent Draft Local Planning Strategy Certification to Advertise, item 3.4. On this item, we will be joined by Rowan Miller, Christine Collins and Ben Davern. Good morning. We've heard a positive deputation from the City of Vincent today. Wish to add? We have to go to questions.
Not particularly. Have 2 questions.
We had received some before the meeting. Commissioner Adair, is there any follow-ups that you had in relation to the questions that you had submitted?
No further. I mean, thank you for the response. And I'll be interesting to see if this is approved, the responses that we get through public comments.
Thank you. Go ahead, Member Franklin.
Thank you. Through the chair, just in regards to the extension for public consultation, it raised it to be city, but I think question, considering the complexity of the. Yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions? And move to consideration of the item. Is there a mover and seconder for the office? Thank you. Go with Member Moore and seconded by Member was Member Franklin, did you have your hand up? I wasn't sure. I just thought I'd check. Member Moore.
No, I don't really have much to add other than thank you for the report. Happy to support.
Thank you.
Quite very well by the city as well. And
thank you. Any further comments, members? Commissioner Heck.
I need to say, again, I think this is well reconciled given the framework that's available. I do think that particularly an area like the City of Vincent is also about the context in terms of the surrounding, like it's not an island. It's quite literally obviously an part of broader metropolitan area. Its alignment with the broader metropolitan plan is important. I will be very keen to see engagement, particularly with DOT around some of that issues around the mid-tier transport component, which I think is critical for this and other inner locations of metropolitan Perth. But I trust that that will emerge during that engagement process.
Thank you, Commissioner Heron. Are there any further? Is there any dissent to the recommendation? Very much that is carried. So that concludes our non-confidential items for discussion today. So I will seek a mover and seconder to close the meeting for consideration of confidential items. Moved by Member Moore, seconded by Member Franklin. Is there any dissent? Thank you. That